Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice break and a good lunch. My name is Michael with Wisconsin Bike Fed. I'm going to serve as our moderator for today's session. We are joined today by Stephanie Mercado from 16th Street Community Health Center, Regina Stieber, also from 16th Street Community Health Center, and Sarah Bregant of the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. These three young women are amazing organizers in Milwaukee, and I'm really excited to share with you their stories, mirrored models on the north and south side of Milwaukee. Stephanie Mercado is a UW-Madison alum and Milwaukee native. She currently serves as 16th Street Community Health Center's Healthy Communities Project Manager within the Department of Environmental Health and Community Wellness. In her role, Stephanie has worked with residents and community stakeholders on public health initiatives, including providing education on the environmental issues most affecting the neighborhoods along the Kinnickinnic River, and the implementation of various urban planning initiatives on Milwaukee's near south side. Stephanie's grassroots experience conducting outreach, planning, and organizing, as well as her roles as a County Parks Foundation board member, Marquette University Future Milwaukee Program graduate, and lifelong Wisconsin Hispanic Scholarship Foundation volunteer, have helped fuel her passion for improving the health and lifting the voices of diverse communities. Thank you for being with us, Stephanie. And Regina Stieber, also from 16th Street Community Health Center. She is a community school coordinator at Lincoln Avenue School. She's also with the Department of Environmental Health and Community Wellness at Lincoln Avenue School. And also graduate of UW-Madison and Milwaukee native. Regina leads up multiple safety efforts at Lincoln Avenue, including their internationally renowned walking school bus efforts. And she was instrumental in the city of Milwaukee being recognized by the National Center for Safe Routes and earning the Vision Zero for Youth Innovation Award this year. Thank you. And Sarah Bregant, who's going to launch us off today. She's going to be presenting on community participatory engagement for safe streets. Sarah has been with Northwest Side Community Development Corporation since 2017 and leads the agency's green infrastructure, public art, and multimodal transportation efforts. A Milwaukee native, she earned her Master's of Urban Planning from UW-Milwaukee in 2017 and previously completed graduate internships with the city and Southeastern Wisconsin Watersheds Trust, gaining extensive experience in brownfield redevelopment, stormwater management. She manages Northwest Side Community Development Corporation's community engagement activities for stormwater and public space projects and collaborates on several other catalytic initiatives, including the 30th Street Corridor Rail with Trail, Safe Streets initiatives, and other walking and biking planning advocacy efforts. All three of our presenters today are very engaged at Milwaukee Public Schools and in incorporating youth voices and community voices throughout their work. And Sarah, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. All right, does that look good to everybody? Everyone can see the screen, all right, and hear me, good. So as Michael said, I'm Sarah Bregant. I am the Planning and Community Development Manager at Northwest Side CDC. We're a small nonprofit in Milwaukee. I'm a white woman with brown hair and glasses, wearing a green shirt today. And I have titled my presentation, Please, Not Another Community Engagement Presentation. Partly as, you know, a little bit of a joke. I mean, we've all probably seen a number of different types of community engagement presentations, been told kind of how to do community engagement, why is it important, you know, some kind of simple things that should be done, you know, that I think are maybe a little bit boring at times, right? Where, you know, doing surveys, having town hall meetings or public meetings, dot voting exercises, or meeting people where they're at. You know, these are all very important. I don't want to downplay that even a little bit. And especially I don't want to slight any other presenters on community engagement, because I think we all do a very good job of keeping this a little bit more creative, a little more interactive. So hopefully that is what we get out of the presentation today. But first wanted to start with, you know, a quick 30 seconds about Northwest Side CDC for those who are unfamiliar. We're a nonprofit on Milwaukee's North Side, established in 1983. I've been here for a little over 4 years now. But we focus on economic and community development in a lot of ways. We do traditional community organizing work and planning work, trying to activate public spaces. We've also really been very interested in safe streets and reckless driving because it's become such an issue for the residents that we serve. So that's kind of why, we're interested in this today, is trying to work towards solutions. And so some of the things that we've done in the past, here, not really anything very groundbreaking, but hosting neighborhood walks. And we've found some success doing this in the past with elected officials. And that's kind of important for a couple of reasons. One of which is it's really a way to naturally connect residents to their elected leaders, meet them in an informal way, not stuck in a stuffy office where maybe people wouldn't feel as welcome, but really having residents highlight their own neighborhoods as we go for walks. And it's also important because it gets elected officials to physically experience what it's like walking in some neighborhoods. And so having a voicemail, to an alderman that says, hey, the sidewalk on my street is uneven, or this street seems unsafe to cross, or this, people go over the speed limit here. It's one thing to hear that in a voicemail or have that in an email, but it's a totally different thing to physically experience that and watch a driver going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit while you're trying to cross with a big group. So that's definitely important to physically have that experience together and to make those connections as well. Wanted to also highlight, and Mike Amsden mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but the importance of hosting pre and post project walks. And this is something that, it's a way to engage residents with their ideas for how a street could potentially be improved, looking at those opportunities from the front end, but then also following through after something is created and seeing, hey, did this work? And hopefully that becomes more of an evolving conversation where, maybe things didn't turn out quite the way that they were hoped to materialize. And this is a way to really grow that discussion and continuously keep people engaged in these projects and to identify lessons learned and best practices for other streets projects as well. Another one that we've enjoyed doing in the past is planning action-oriented events like rallies for safe streets. And we've typically invited press to these events. We've invited elected officials, neighborhood groups, other stakeholders, especially youth-serving agencies, schools and daycares have participated in some of our rallies that we've done in the past. But this is really a way to show drivers primarily that people care about neighborhoods, that our streets in Milwaukee should not just be designed as thoroughfares that are designed for cars to move quickly from point A to point B. Gathering on an intersection or on a busier street with signs that say slow down and stop means stop. That's really a way to show, hey, people live here, kids go to school here, kids play here. People actually want to be able to feel safe walking and biking here. So this really shouldn't be just prioritized for vehicles. But it's definitely important to be inviting neighbors to these, making sure that areas, homes and businesses, stakeholders in the vicinity of where you would plan something like this are aware of that event on the front end. On the note of biking, wanting people to feel that they can bike safely in neighborhoods, we've also had a lot of fun organizing an annual Promise Zone bike ride on Milwaukee's north side. Starting in 2017, we've done it every year except for 2020. But we're happy to be back. We're planning it for 2021 already. But this is really a way to, again, highlight in kind of a fun way, get people on bikes, exploring neighborhoods and seeing things that you may not have otherwise seen, just by driving fast through a street. You're experiencing things differently when you're walking or when you're biking. And just a couple best practices for if you were to organize some of your own bike rides is really to get a lot of grassroots partners involved. A lot of partner organizations to provide services like, free rental bikes so that people still feel welcome to participate, even if they don't have a bicycle. Also, providing free repairs, things like that the Bike Fed does an awesome job. Dream Bikes in Milwaukee has helped us in the past. But then also just designing a route that is safe, that is, fairly short, thinking about the pace of the ride as being fairly slow and having a number of stops, so that it really does feel like an all ages and all abilities bike ride, where you don't have to be super fit to participate or have a fancy bike or bike equipment. Really that, this ride is for everyone. And, we want you to join us in that matter and show off different development potential in the neighborhood, or, new art installations or possibilities for different development or art or community development. So just kind of, again, another fun way to bring people out and see neighborhoods. One other one is to actually do and install like a temporary traffic calming demonstration. So in these photos, you can see we've done a mock bump out using traffic cones and old painted tires and plants to basically simulate what a bump out would look like, because we find that sometimes, when talking about bump outs or other, street improvements, it doesn't always translate if you're just speaking. It's really important to have a sort of visual component to that. And then this is, of course, a low cost, kind of tactical urbanism way to go about suggesting to the city, where a bump out might make sense, and then kind of test it out. And I know Marissa Meyer yesterday was talking about the rapid implementation and some of those strategies. That could be almost the next step of how some of these can end up being more permanent solutions in neighborhoods. And then the next few slides are really primarily about engaging youth. And this is something that we've heard the most recently and the most frequently, really as something that's an important priority for how we should go about doing some of our Safe Streets advocacy work and planning work, is really to put young people at the forefront and engage them along the whole duration of the process. You hear things like, youth are the future, and it's kind of cliche, but it's so true, right? And we want to make sure that we're hearing the voices of all ages and really, listening to those opinions, listening to that idea that comes about as we do some of this community engagement. And I don't have any photos yet because this is actually a new program that we're starting, and Caressa has been working really hard on this with us. So thank you, Caressa. But we've started a pilot program where it's a youth decorative crosswalk and safe routes for teens internship. So we've hired 2 high school students. They actually just started reporting for their first week of work this week. And what we're having them do throughout the summer is to really have them design or take a decorative crosswalk project from start to finish. So from site selection to the community engagement, to the designing, to physically finding volunteers to help install it, ordering supplies, submitting the application, and then doing kind of a fun celebratory ribbon cutting event at the end of it. So we're really excited about that. And then Caressa with the Bike Fed is going to be doing some bike programming and training with them as well. But this is just to kind of backtrack. I mean, we were really interested in doing something like decorative crosswalks just kind of on our own. We would have potentially worked with some of our resident leaders or block groups. But again, the feedback that we heard was like, no, this shouldn't be coming from Northwest Side CDC. This should be coming from youth. So that is really something that we took to heart and decided to hire these interns. And no lie, it's a lot of work to put a program like this together, to put together the schedule and the detail. But I really do think it's going to be worthwhile in the end. And our end result is going to be much better than it could have been if it would have just been, some of our staff working on it internally. On a related note, we have also been one of the recipients of the Department of Public Works Reckless Driving Mini Grants, and the project that we proposed was to actually engage 2 elementary schools within our service area to do 3 things. And one of them is to install a traffic garden on the playgrounds of each school. That's what's shown in the photos here. So basically what a traffic garden would be is a mock city street with different types of intersections, a place where kids can learn the rules of the road and kind of practice walking and biking and what to do in different scenarios before, having to be thrown onto a busy street or something and saying, hey, good luck trying to figure out how to navigate some of these situations. So that's one of them. Another, we're also going to be doing decorative crosswalks, again, being led by the schools themselves or classrooms Maybe it's an art class, maybe it's a group of fourth graders, maybe it's incorporated into a back to school night, but to be able to do a decorative crosswalk outside each school, and then also to do some safe routes to schools programming. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Michael Anderson, moderating this very panel, for his help in that aspect of the project, and really this whole implementation of this mini grant and working with our schools. But again, we do really see that working with youth in this context is incredibly important. And then the last thing I have here too, and Kate Reardon talked about the Active Streets program yesterday, but we were one of the organizations selected for, to run an active street this season. So our stretch of North 25th Street, kind of near our office, will be closed to through traffic this summer. And we wanted to make sure that we activated that street with all different types of programming, but ideas that really came from residents. And so we actually held a meeting earlier this month where we were outside in the street. That's what the photo is showing. People gathered, and then we wrote different ideas for programming and activities, including all kinds of different things. So, working on a walking and running club, trying to do a health or resource fair in the street, bike repair clinics. There's a church on the block, so potentially having an outdoor church service, doing a movie night outside, different types of music or walking events, and then other block meetings, as we're trying to make it more accessible for people to meet neighbors and really come together to make this street a highlight of the neighborhood. But I do want to just end on the note that, again, these ideas were not, drawn up in City Hall, or they were not drawn up in our office. These ideas came out of this block meeting and came out of the engagement that we tried to do with neighbors. And that's sort of what the crux of community development and community engagement is listening to neighbors, listening to residents, and just trying to bring those ideas to life and try to make it happen. So that's kind of what I will leave you with. Again, my contact information is on here. I can also put that in the chat. But otherwise, I am happy to turn it over at this point to Stephanie and Regina for their presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. So I will start sharing my screen too. Give me 1 second. Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay. Good. Great. So I'll be looking back and forth because I have 2 screens up. But my name is Stephanie Mercado. I am a Hispanic female wearing a blue top and a fancy headset, and I work at 16th Street Community Health Centers within their Department of Environmental Health and Community Wellness as their Healthy Communities Project Manager. And at 16th Street, we've been around on the south side of Milwaukee serving a community for over 50 years. And our goal really is to improve the health and well-being of Milwaukee and the surrounding communities by providing quality and patient-centered family-based healthcare, health education, and social services free from linguistic, cultural, and economic barriers. So to better understand the population we serve, I've included the following breakdown. So we serve over 43,000 clients, patients, community members in a year. 85% identify as Latino, 66 live below the federal poverty level, 52 are under the age of 20, so you see a young population. And then we have other statistics related to insurance. So most of our patients are in Medicaid or underinsured or uninsured. So although 16th Street serves a large population and an array of diverse services, Regina and I's work is supported by the clinic's Department of Environmental Health and Community Wellness. Our department is focused primarily on addressing a combination of factors, including how we live and the spaces where we spend our time, and driven by a prevention and upstream approach, which you kind of get an idea for based on these 2 slides. We're focused on reaching individuals outside of the clinic's walls in their homes, schools, neighborhoods, and overarching watershed. Again, really trying to work upstream so that there's less of an emphasis on health downstream or later on in life, which usually leads to worse negative health outcomes and just more expenses later on. So like I said, our department is focused on in these 4 sections, and today Regina and I will be sharing our department's work specifically on streets as spaces and places where our patients and community members often feel most unsafe, lead to negative health outcomes, and perpetuate an unequitable transportation system. So with that, I will kick it off to Regina, whose birthday also happens to be today.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. My name is Regina Stieber. I go by she, her pronouns. I am a young Hispanic woman as well with brown eyes and straight brown hair, and I am wearing an orange floral shirt. So like Stephanie said, I am the community school coordinator at Lincoln Avenue Elementary School by way of 16th Street Community Health Centers in the Department of Environmental Health. And it's important to note that Lincoln Avenue is a community school with the Milwaukee Community Schools Partnership, which is ran by United Way of Greater Milwaukee. And so the community schools model pairs MPS schools with local nonprofits in the area to help meet the needs of that school. So you can go to the next slide, please. So really quickly about the Milwaukee Community Schools Partnership, it is a transformation process through shared leadership, equity, and cultural relevance. And it is our aim to transform schools into a place where students, families, staff, and the surrounding community can work together to ensure every student is successful. So this is through academics, through involving the neighborhood, and involving the environmental determinants of health with the clinic that I work for. So you can go to the next slide. So at Lincoln Avenue School, we have self-identified real-time priorities that the school community chose. So this includes parents, students, staff, residents, and community partners. And this happened through a process we do called community conversations. It's a part of our piece about shared leadership and equity. So these 3 priorities are what we focus on as a school community. The first one is safety inside and outside of the school. The second one is environmental sustainability. And the last one is parent engagement. So today I'm going to mostly focus on safety outside the school, which is one of our 3 priorities. And it's a very prevalent one in terms of an issue that everyone is really caring about right now. So a little background of where Lincoln Avenue Elementary School is. It is located on 18th and Lincoln. It is technically an internal highway, so there is a lot of traffic, a lot of speeding, a lot of reckless driving. But since Lincoln Avenue is an elementary school within MPS, there is a walk zone about 1.5 miles around the school that there is no school bus transportation provided. So students have to get to school by either walking, biking, or having their parents drive them to school. So they have no transportation option. And for our school, we are the 4th highest population of students who live within the walk zone in all of Milwaukee Public Schools. So 58% of our students live within this walk zone. They don't receive transportation to school. And so 291 of our students are walking to school or taking another way to school. So going back to our priority of safety, it was cited as one of the most concerning aspects about our school community. And so we have implemented several strategies over the last 5 years to address this and bring in different partners and really make sure everyone's voices are at the table on how we can address this issue. So the 3 main strategies I'm going to talk about today are the walking school bus, the Safe Routes to School program, and our neighborhood safety meetings. So the first one is the walking school bus. Like Michael said, it has been recognized nationally. The cutout of the walking school bus really pulls at people's heartstrings. And I mean, look at how cute those kids are. They really, really love doing the walking school bus. We've been doing it for about 4 years now. And we have kids that have gone through it since they were, I'm sorry, I am in the school building right now. So there is an announcement. But there have been kids who have gone through it and we've seen their attendance change from when they started it and when they graduated from school. So you can go to the next slide. So since safety was the parents' most cited concern in our community conversations, it also paired with our attendance rates. So in Milwaukee Public Schools, on a part of your state report card is attendance and your absentee rate. So if you have a lot of kids that are not attending school, this affects you on the state report card, which in turn, affects our city as a whole because it shows that our schools are quote unquote failing and not doing well. And so attendance plays a really big part in that. And we had an absentee rate of 14%, which is really, really bad. And so we were asking parents, why are you not bringing your kids to school? Why are kids not attending? Our school only goes up till 5th grade. So the oldest kids that we would have would be 11 years old. So a lot of parents were telling us that they didn't feel safe sending their kid to walk to school by themselves because of traffic and because it's just not safe for them to walk alone. And so we came up with the solution of walking school bus in partnership with the Wisconsin Bike Fed. So how does it work at Lincoln Avenue? Like I said, we partner with the Bike Fed. They help us establish routes around the school. We do a targeted approach, almost like a tier 3 approach of support. So we work with our attendance intervention team to identify students that are kind of falling off with their attendance. And we usually do walking school bus Mondays and Fridays because those are the days we saw the lowest attendance at school. And so it really helped us to boost attendance on those days by doing walking school bus. We do go door to door to every house and pick up the child right at their front door. And we've been able to engage not only our staff members in volunteering to do this, but parents and also other community members who are not even a part of Lincoln Avenue School. So just some really quick data to show how having a safe route to school affects our overall attendance data. We took the names out of the kids, but you can see that almost every single child from our 2018-2019 school year, they increased their attendance by at least 5%. So it really makes a big impact when we look at it as a whole on safe routes to school. So that brings us to the program Safe Routes to School. So because of all the initiatives we were already doing, the city of Milwaukee granted our school with $75,000 to change the pedestrian infrastructure around the school. These were going to be awarded to several schools throughout the city, but Lincoln Avenue was the first one to try this out. And so we worked together with the Bike Fed, with 16th Street, our teachers, and with Department of Public Works to create a curriculum to involve our students so that they could have a say in the redesign of the streets around their school. They're the ones who actually walk every day, so they know which corners are not safe. They know where curb bump outs need to be. And so in the curriculum, we involved all the 4th and 5th grade students. It was about 150 kids, all the bilingual kids and all of our monolingual students as well. And there was a component with math, so they learned how to budget based on all the different infrastructure types. They wrote persuasive essays to the aldermen and to DPW, telling them why their project should be chosen and why theirs is the safest option. And they were also able to present their projects in front of the aldermen, in front of District 2 Police, and in front of Department of Public Works as a culminating event to this project. And this happened in the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic. And so with that work that we did, when we came back to school, we started up walking school bus again. And then we found out with the Bike Fed that we were awarded as a partnership, the Vision Zero for Youth Innovation Award. And so Mayor Tom Barrett came to our school, met our students, saw the bus, and our students actually spoke at this live press event. And they were very, very eloquent in speaking on why reckless driving is a huge problem and how it affects them as kids, and why people should drive safe for pedestrians, especially for students. So that was 2 strategies. Our third one that we implement is our neighborhood safety meetings. So these are essentially block watch meetings. We have a lot of residents who attend who don't even have kids at the school. They are just interested and invested in the work that we are doing as a school and as a partnership. And so we work together with District 2 community liaison officers, Southside Organizing Center, 16th Street, and our school staff. So we've been meeting monthly since 2018, and we've been engaging neighbors as stakeholders in this issue of safety, safe streets, and reckless driving. And through involving our neighbors in this, we've been able to leverage all of our stakeholders together to impact change. So we work together to implement the Safe Routes to School project with our neighbors. We also were able to do the Alert Neighbor program with Southside Organizing Center, which brought in other funds to support safety in the neighborhood. And most recently, that we'll be implementing this summer, similar to what Sarah was talking about, we received a grant from the Reckless Driving Task Force of Milwaukee for $5,000 to implement some safety measures this summer. So all in all, I just wanted to describe those three main strategies that we're using at our school and how a school can be a hub for advocacy and change, especially when you leverage partnerships with organizations who have the same goals that you have in making sure that the streets are safe for everyone, especially for our kids.
Thanks, Regina. So now if we zoom out again, we see how schools like Lincoln Avenue are only one part of the larger community our patients and neighborhoods work, live, learn, and play. So I'll zoom out a second. There you see Lincoln. And I'll be walking through other initiatives related to creating safer streets in other areas in the neighborhood. As we said earlier, our clinic serves over 43,000 patients, so we're a bit spread out on the south side of Milwaukee. So here you'll see other locations where we've been active. And I'll click through this. Okay, so for example, we have the Kinnickinnick River neighborhood, which would formerly be referred to as a combination of Polonia and Lincoln Village, and is one with a strong resident association who 16th Street has partnered with over the years and from its inception, really. And we've worked really hard to advocate together for not only safer green spaces on the south side of Milwaukee, but also streets and bike ped infrastructure. So in this slide, I've included the KK River Plaza on the top left, which is a green space that we were able to reimagine with residents. And they really advocated for the installation of a trail so that they could safely use their bikes and walk their pets out, not along a really busy street, which would be Harrison and Cleveland. After that green space was established, residents continue to advocate for speed bumps because they recognize how fast people were going alongside a green space that their kids were recreating in. So soon, if you ever drive down Harrison, you'll see 6 speed bumps down that whole street. So it's made it safer and easier for students and our patients and community members to actually visit this green space. And across the street is Pulaski Park, which has also gone through a pretty large revitalization effort. On the bottom below that, you see just an example of the resident meeting similar to Regina's efforts at Lincoln Avenue. We have a strong resident association that meets monthly at the Pulaski Park Pavilion, and over the pandemic, it was virtual. Their work and their effort led to our 2020 Mandy Award, Public Space Award, which is through LISC Milwaukee. And so we're really excited about that and proud of that. And again, continuing to leverage these investments and our partnerships with organizations like the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, the residents were able to advocate for the installation of a trail alongside the renaturalization project that's taking place within the Kinnickinnick River. So now, as the project continues to remove the concrete along the river, we will also start seeing the installation of a bike trail, which is great, and it'll create more spaces for our residents to bike safely and with their families. So that's an example below of us installing a trailhead that says Kinnickinnick River Trail. I'll move on. So the work here led to this project. So as a result of the organizers and community stakeholders and advocacy in this neighborhood over the years, other projects like the Envision South 13th Street strategic planning effort has emerged, which continues to highlight the need for safer streets. On the top right, you see an example of a survey that around 230 people responded to, and it really highlights the fact that in order to make South 13th Street a more appealing destination for folks or make it a more thriving business corridor in the neighborhood, we need to address speeding and reckless driving. We need people to have a greater feeling of personal safety and security, and safer street crossings. So those are the top three. Again, a theme that we see not only at Lincoln Avenue, not only where Sarah works, but in this neighborhood as well. So as a result of this strategic planning effort, we were able to install these temporary bollards along the intersections on 13th Street, which also connect to this green space that I mentioned in the previous slide. So if you'd like to learn more about this project, you can also share this link. But another project, and lastly, our department has partnered with the City of Milwaukee's Department of Public Works in their multimodal unit on the design and the development of the Southside's first bike boulevard project. Project funded by the Department of Transportation in hopes of creating a street that is safer for pedestrians and cyclists. This project runs from 1st to 20th on Washington and then swings over to Scott Street from 20th to 27th Street. So it's pretty long. And along the way, intersections will be identified to receive infrastructure improvements. And this process is going to be informed by community pop-up events. We have members of our department also host a walking and biking club, which meet every Wednesday from 6 to 7 at Walker Square Park. And then because of this project, we've also been able to leverage smaller grants like the Active Streets grant and bring in more art. So really tap into what else people want to see in addition to great infrastructure along Washington and Scott. So this example, in this slide, you see the map of the boundary. So like again, 1st to 20th on Washington, swinging over to 20th, 27th on Scott. But then also you see an example of an art installation which will be a mid-block mural, and that'll be installed hopefully next week with community members, or in 2 weeks, on the asphalt between 9th and 11th on Washington. So that's community members were able to vote, were able to give their input, and really advocate for more, which is one of the best parts about having investments coming into the neighborhood. And then we have examples. These other pictures are images of some of our community events that we've hosted along the street. So with Regina and my slides, you see that streets are really spaces that can become safe places, systems of transportation, getting kids from their houses to their school, and their tools for empowerment and community connectedness. The residents that were advocating for the bike trail along the Kinnickinnic River were also then able to get involved with the Business Improvement District along South 13th Street. And they're also leverage points for continued investment. So they allow people to build on the momentum that's already coming into the neighborhood. These are just pictures that highlight that. But what else? What else can streets be? And that's always the question that we're asking folks. And the more we activate them, the more we see the potential of streets as places and serving more than the purpose of transporting vehicles very fast, I might add. So in conclusion, the various initiatives we've been a part of are rooted in our approach to create and help improve spaces and to prevent our community from becoming unhealthy. Any questions? Or I guess I'll hand it over back to Mike for our Q&A.
Thank you, Stephanie. Brilliant presentation. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I've got some for you two and for Sarah if she's still around as well. All of your work is beautifully intersectional, and as you brought up in the last slide, intimately tied to the social determinants of health. And it really drives home, as Cressa said this morning, that the issues we face in Milwaukee streets really is a public health crisis. And that's very apparent in the Safe Streets work. But I was hoping, Sarah, you could elaborate a little bit more on the watershed work you are doing and how that ties into the public right-of-way. But once you answer that, we can kind of toss that back over to the 16th Street folks so they can share the Kinnickinnic River story there. For folks not from Milwaukee, one of the potential meanings of Milwaukee is a gathering place by the waters. So there's a lot of transformative work, not only in the public right-of-way, but also with water that the presenters are doing. Sarah?
Yeah, Thank you. That is a great question. And I could have included, some of this work in the presentation itself, but I was like, let's gear it towards safe streets. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they're very connected. And we're really excited. I know Stephanie and Regina mentioned MMSD, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, really being a leader in 28 municipalities around the Milwaukee area. Dealing with stormwater, dealing with flooding issues, and that all impacts public green space, public right-of-ways in a lot of different ways. So we're actually working on a large stormwater basin project on North 35th Street. And we've been doing some community engagement work with neighbors around 35th Street for a couple of years now. And now we're kind of moving along. There's a design and engineering consultant that's beginning that work in, really getting that into full swing. And we'll be spending some time this summer doing some more formal community engagement meetings and stakeholder meetings as we get closer to that design. But the really interesting, play with this whole project is that it's not only a stormwater issue. It's not only a basin project that will help reduce flooding. It's also something that can create about 2 acres of community green space and involve some pretty heavy construction on 35th Street itself to really be able to allow us to reimagine 35th Street in this corridor and try to make that safer. And of course, our angle is going to be to make sure that it's safer for all modes of transportation. So again, not only focusing on cars or trucks being able to use 35th Street as a thoroughfare, but being able to pay attention to people who use transit, people who are walking and biking. And it really can have a piece of the project can have to do with trails, off-street trails as well. And we're definitely conscious of that as far as creating a walking loop or something of that sort. We've heard some ideas from neighbors already that would be a useful thing, since sometimes people like to go to local high schools and walk around a track and kind of track health goals and fitness goals that way. So if we could create, a 1/4 mile track that goes around the basin, that would be something that's really exciting, or to connect it into some larger trail conversations. One that we're having is to include a pedestrian and bike trail along the whole length of the 30th Street corridor railroad tracks. So connecting south to the Hank Aaron State Trail in the Menominee Valley, and then going all the way north, about 5.5 miles of trail up to Havenwood State Forest. And being able to use the railroad corridor bridges to be able to not have to cross some of our busier arterial streets at grade. So that could be a really, really, massive community project, and one that we're excited to be kind of in on the ground floor on, and really to be able to help guide the community engagement for that as that comes to fruition.
Thank you, Sarah. Regina or Stephanie, do you have any quick comments to add into stormwater or environmental connections?
I know I quickly referenced the Kinnickinnick River renaturalization effort, but the advocacy around really having a bike trail alongside, that's something that directly relates. Not only are people seeing the benefits of renaturalizing a river that historically has flooded the neighborhood for many, many years, and when that has, so the renaturalization leads to positive health effects, right? Capturing more stormwater, leading to less basement backups, potentially making it more affordable for folks that do, the flooding wouldn't be as extreme, so that you don't leave water in your basement that could lead to molding and asthma, etc. But now, so that not only are they learning about the positive benefits, they're also being able to advocate and link various efforts that contribute to someone's health into one investment, and that's my favorite part about this, is like, once you have investment, what else can you layer? And then folks start to build that confidence because they see the change. They see that people are already listening, the ears are already open. It's just a matter of using their voice and learning that they have one.
That's an excellent transition into Mike Amson's question from the city. What can they at the city do to make your job easier, to make your work easier?
I can jump in really quickly. Great question, Mike. And I think some things that residents say, it's almost a feeling of the city operates I don't want to say in secret, but it's sort of like, how are these road projects or street projects being prioritized? Or, is there a schedule that would be, able to be shared for neighbors so they can know when to expect construction near them and when to be able to weigh in on some of that. So, we're starting to see a little bit more and more of that coming from, a transparent lens of, public meetings around, like the repaving of Hampton is coming up. I know other parts of the city as well, but just trying to really make meaningful engagement opportunities and making it clear what, kind of schedule wise, what people can expect. Because I really do think it wouldn't be that hard, and it's really worth doing, because oftentimes people, if you're not notified of something, then you're going to end up kind of judging or having a negative perception of that project. When if you're invited at the beginning, you can really provide more input or be more of a partner or really feel valued in the process. So that's something that, like, we as a community partner are very much willing to do, and to conduct some of that outreach and engagement work on the city's behalf. But yeah, it would be good to kind of have a little bit more information out and about that's readily available to the public.
I would add to translated materials always, and then schedules. Yeah, having access to timelines for when things are being done. So when the repavement schedules are, when our alley's being redone, when is a street up for high impact paving, things like that. Because again, we can, instead of reaching out to the community 5 times in a year, it's once, and we can use that as a touch point. We know that our community is already over surveyed as it is. And 3, I would say, well, Regina, do you want to say a 3? I don't want to take all of it. Just talking to each other internally too, recognizing that there are efforts that different departments within the city can work on together that may impact the community in a larger, better way.
And just to chime in, I agree with what both these ladies are saying. In addition, with thinking about schools, especially public schools, if there's a way to prioritize schools that maybe have been overlooked in terms of traffic safety and pedestrian safety. I know we're still waiting on getting all of our Safe Routes to School infrastructure put in, so we're still struggling with the streets being really unsafe for kids to walk. And so we are doing advocacy, but it is like on the back end and kind of also playing the waiting game and telling neighbors like, just a little bit longer, this is when it's coming. So yeah, I agree with what they're saying.
Thank you all for your time and your work moving Milwaukee forward. I think that's all we have time for before our short break. There are a couple questions in the chat if you want to just answer those directly. Cress is asking if 16th Street's involved in the National Avenue reconstruction, and you know where to find her. David, I think, is asking a question broadly to our summit goers and our colleagues here. Any last questions for them? All right, thank you for your time and presentations, your brilliant work. I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great sharing the stage, Stephanie and Regina. You're doing awesome work. So thanks.
Right back at you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.